like anytime I'm making fun of something, it's just to like make bartending fun again. We put liquid into cups,
Memes really drive culture, creates a talking point amongst the community, right?
I've been sober for over 5 years.
Even making cocktails has very little to do with drinking alcohol.
And somehow Raekwon from Wu-Tang, his camp saw it and they reached out to me. You gotta stop selling this. And I thought that was hilarious that Dairy Queen, some lawyer at Dairy Queen's looking at our website.
You can only trademark a name of a cocktail. You can't trademark a recipe. How crazy would it be if you were a chef and somebody came into your kitchen and was like, you got to pay us for that bolognese?
What's the future for Nick? What's the future for Mover and Shaker? What can we keep an eye out for?
These are the things that drive me crazy.
On today's episode, we got to talk with Nick Hogan. He is the man behind Mover and Shaker. And if you're in the bar industry, or if you even like making drinks at home, there is a very good chance that you've laughed at one of the memes that he has made. His industry meme page has over 200,000 followers and is a mainstay in the online bar culture. On top of the memes that he makes incredible merchandise that is just incredible for the industry, and he really drives the culture forward. On top of that, he is also a content creator, a brand ambassador, and a longtime bartender. It was an absolute pleasure getting to chat with him in this episode, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. All right, let's get right into it.
Let me have the first question today, because
all yours, man.
I got a great first question, but it has to be the first question. It can't be a subsequent question.
Oh, great.
Well,
what are you drinking? Are you drinking a Topo Chico, dude?
I am.
Of course.
Oh my God! I'm just gonna say this for everybody. This is a hot take, all right, and it's also a very controversial issue here. But I'm just gonna say this right now to establish this once and for all. Okay, Mineragua is better than Topo Chico by a long shot. Just letting you know.
So for my restaurant, we have this Portuguese brand of seltzer water. It's called Castillo or something like that. Anyway, we ran out, and the only thing that at Restaurant Depot that they have was this. So that's why we have them. But I like Topo Chico. I don't mind.
Topo Chico is the Badois of Mexican sparkling water. That's my hot take.
Sweet. Well, Leandro, I will let you take it away, and you can have the first question, sir.
Now that I've sufficiently alienated Louis, we can get started with this interview. I've actually been dying to talk to you, Nick, for quite a while because I've been a really big fan of what you do. But what you do is really many-fold, and I'd like to know how you describe what it is that you do. What is Mover and Shaker? For those of us in the audience that don't know.
I guess it depends who I'm answering this for usually. So I think what most people surface level is going to be industry memes. That's kind of what it's grown into. But really, at the end of the day, you started as merchandise before it ever started as memes, which is kind of funny because you see a lot of meme pages that start as meme pages and then they try to monetize it and then it kind of just blows up because it doesn't work. For me, it was I was a bartender, brand ambassador, and I wanted to create cool stuff for bartenders outside of everybody wears the branded stuff that you get from events and stuff, and that's cool. Right. But I wanted to create stuff specifically for us, and I was just a full-time bartender. I had no experience. I just grew up skateboarding and super into music, so I kind of had that DIY mindset, I guess, when it came to it. So I kind of just assembled. I had a really good friend at the time, Matt. He was a graphic designer. I was the bartender. I came up with ideas. He brought them to life. And then I was just hand selling them to my friends at their bars back in the day. And people are just dude, why do you not have a website? What are you doing? And this is 2016, 2017. So it also coincided with when everybody was kind of getting started out on Instagram. Your page was kind of starting to grow, High Proof Preacher, Miguel. Just kind of combined into this okay, how do I promote it on Instagram? And I didn't even get started into the memes until 2020, and that was because my partner at the time, she started a page called Cocktails and Memes, obviously off Cocktails and Dreams, and she was just posting memes every other day, but she was blowing up so quick. Within 2-3 months, she had 20,000 followers, but she was she could not stand the haters and commenters, so she was I'm out. And I was like, okay, well, I grew up being an internet kid on Reddit. So I was like, I think I could like kind of pick this up. I fuck with this. So I started making the memes and yeah, it just like blew up and like it just shifted everything on Instagram for me. And that's just kind of when like I'd always had like really good engagement with people like messaging me and like, building this community, but that's when I started getting like funny drink tickets, like crazy videos, and and then it just like steamrolled over time. And that was like right in the middle of like COVID, so everybody's like, bummed out. I'm bummed out, just chilling, not working. So it was like that outlet for me, and then it was also like something to give like community to kind of like look at and laugh at and bring everybody together.
Right.
Every industry kind of needs humor, right? And so what I love about your page is that you poke fun at us a lot, like people who are bartenders, and I think that it takes a special kind of person who's been in the industry to be able to be like, well, I can make fun of myself and it's funny for everybody and we can all laugh, because I think that we all know the bartenders who take themselves too seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it's great that by providing that, like the humor, it's such an important aspect of it.
For me, it was all like self-deprecating. It's stuff that, has happened to me. And I came up and like, I started bartending around like 2014. So it was like very like pretentious era of like, a lot of steps in your ingredients and like clear ice, clear coops, like really like anal stuff. So like everything I'm making fun of at the end of the day is like making fun of myself. And like, I think we've seen like the swing probably in 2018, 2019, was kind of like taking a step back from being so like ridiculously over the top and pretentious. So that's like anytime I'm making fun of something, it's just to like make bartending fun again. It's not like this thing is bad or like, like I'm very like hardlined on something. It's just like, we put liquid into cups.
Which I love. A little levity goes a long way in the bartending industry. And I gotta say that I have definitely felt called out a couple times. But so I don't want you to, you don't have to give up the secret sauce if you don't want to, but I just wonder like, so how does this work? Like, is this like, do people just send you like, oh, this is an image that'll be a good meme? Or do they send you like full on memes and they're like, please post this. I think that this is going to be good. Or do you just like find stuff like just constantly scouring the internet for like funny images?
Oh man. Yeah, definitely. My screen time is abysmal if you saw it. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on the internet. I probably spend like most of the day, like if I'm scrolling, I'm like just looking for ideas or looking for templates, but I'd probably spend like 3 or 4 hours on a computer actually making the memes, but like the rest of the day is kind of like harvesting ideas. Right. And then, yeah, I mean, I get a ton of stuff from people, but I feel like I'm so like on the internet perpetually that like a lot of the stuff that's being sent is like, when it's already like 2 or 3 days old, it's already old news. So it's like I've either posted it or it's not funny anymore to me. So it's like I'm always, it's definitely a bad thing, but I'm always like looking for the thing. And it's also like the timing's got to be right for me. And like, I don't know, like the whole Batanga thing. Like, I didn't hit it like right when y'all were doing it. I saw it and I was like not sure if I wanted to do it. But then I like had some time to like sit down and I feel like I did it right, where I think I made like 9 or 10 all original memes off it and just like went way over the top because I want to do it right, and
right.
That
one was a really fun one recently.
And I'll tell you this, the timing of it was great. I thought it was hilarious. So I thought the timing worked out perfectly. And
it's funny too because you guys ruined the Batanga for me because like it's because right before you guys went on that Coscanes trip, I was like, oh, I should post a Batanga. And I was like getting ready to shoot it, and then you guys pulled out that fucking Batanga week, and I was like, well, now I fucking can't do it.
Well, you don't like
I can't do it because I just don't. Because anytime anything blows up on the internet, dude, I want to be like 6 months behind it, dude. I don't want to be like I don't want to be like trying to coast the views,
What, you don't want to get editorials written about you? We just, in the group chat that we have, someone sent it in that this person wrote this entire article about what we did, and it was really funny. So anyway, you should have joined in, Leandro.
The Batanga triggers me the same. The Batanga triggers me the same way that a ranch water triggers me. It's as if people don't know that the Ricky fucking existed for fucking 100 years before the ranch water came along, and then all of a sudden Texans start figuring out that they're going to put tequila in a Ricky template, and it's this new fucking thing, and it just goes crazy on the internet. It drives me crazy.
Dude, I need to harvest some meme ideas from you. You're like so opinionated.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you spend your day harvesting images on the internet, and I spend my day screaming at the computer.
We got to join forces. Every morning I'd be like, hey, what's pissing you off today?
Yeah, so you should have a direct line to Leandro. I think that's a great way to have memes. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, so Nick, so I mean, like, what's one of the most ridiculous things that you've made a meme about that you were just like, one that really kind of like stood out to you that you were like, man, this really went way bigger than I thought, or maybe it was one that you just personally couldn't stand, and you were like, you know what, I need to make one about this, because I think like there's so much in this industry that goes on, and I just want people to kind of like get a little bit of that. I think it's so funny.
This kind of answers your question, but I think it's like the craziest thing that's kind of happened. It's kind of like correlating to like with what you guys did, but my friend Alana from Puerto Rico, she just like she just tagged me in a video of her taking a shot of Angostura, popping the lid off, pouring it, and taking the shot. No meme, no joke. She was just doing it, and she tagged me, so I reposted it, and like my phone was just blowing up with like, you can drink that? Like, you can shoot Angostura? And I was like, you can shoot anything if you try hard enough. So like, it just like snowballed into like people shooting like every type of bitters. Somebody shot like Fee's orange bitters, which if you know Fee's, they're glycerin based, so it's not even alcohol.
Oh, no.
I'm like, yo, what are you doing? But like people shooting pay shot, it got crazy. But that also like, coincided with the like shortage of Angostura, so it looked like this had like caused this like shortage in Angostura, which is really, really funny. But I like ended up talking to somebody from Angostura, one of their like main marketing people, I think at like BCB, and I like casually brought it up to see, like I was just like kind of poking around. It's like, oh yeah, we saw that, like that was crazy. And so I was like, holy shit, like, people do see this stuff like that goes viral, and it just blew my mind that like one little video that like was harmless just snowballed into like this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think like as Leandro pulls out his Topo Chico after he just yelled about it,
yeah, but it's grapefruit, twisted grapefruit.
Oh, look at you! I think that it's really fascinating because I think that people maybe underestimate, maybe they don't do it anymore, but I think that a lot of folks don't understand that like memes really drive culture, and I think that like something like that going viral, being funny, and like just having it be funny and shared, it actually does drive culture, and it creates a talking point amongst the community, right? And I think that the whole Batanga week, as much as Leandro might hate it and a lot of other folks hated it, it was just funny because it created a touch point.
I don't hate it. I actually hate it. I don't actually hate it. I love a Batanga.
It just created a talking point for the industry, and it was just, I think those things that bring the community together are far and few in between, and I think that like, it's one of those things that I think it's very underappreciated.
Yeah, I mean it's weird because I feel like social media really does drive the culture at this point in bartending, because I feel like COVID kind of slowed everything down. I feel like you don't see like the crazy trends as much as you used to. So now you're really seeing it on Instagram or TikTok first, which is weird to think about. But that's just
right
the way society is.
I mean, I got to say that a good meme is like a work of art. I have tried my hand at them and I have failed. I have completely failed because, the thing about what I like about the memes that you guys do, specifically the ones that you do, is that they are a very good mix of things that are very intrinsic to bartenders, which bartenders will have a strong reaction to, and things that everybody would get. Especially like the service ticket ones that are just so idiotic, like that everyone will get that. And I think it's also really important at a time where we are, daily inundated by crazy election stuff and like a lot of negative news, that there's somewhere you can turn for just like a laugh and to like release the pressure and just like have a good time. And I think that you guys provide that really well. I also think that it's pretty brilliant how you tie the subject matter, because it seems like you curate the slides on your Instagram by subject matter, and then how you tie that into the products that you guys do is pretty brilliant.
I think just going back during COVID, it was like straight doom scrolling on like Reddit. I would just find myself in like the weirdest mental state. So yeah, I think it was like kind of getting out of that, and we're still kind of in some weird times, but yeah, I mean, it's To me, it's crazy because it's like it really is a community thing, especially with those drink tickets, and I do try to like, do the best I can with kind of making a cohesive thought. And like I said before, like I designed the web shop before, so it's kind of like I had all these products with like all my favorite cocktails, so it kind of just looped back into it like organically. It wasn't ever like trying to like force stuff down people's throats. So I don't know, just been super fortunate to have that community. I mean, I think we can all kind of say that it's just something we've built slowly over time. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm not moving fast enough. I'm sure you guys have maybe been in that same boat, but if you look like a year ago or 2 years ago or 4 or 5, it's like, holy shit, you can build something really crazy if you just take it like one day at a time.
Oh, I've felt that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I have to keep
that's-
reminding myself is that like as big as our community is, because there's so many people in the service industry working in it, it's still very niche, right? Because there's still a lot of people who don't. There's people who just don't drink alcohol, right? So that naturally will 100% like divide a lot of the folks where, at least for my content, but in terms of like not everybody understands the side of being a server or working in the restaurant or bar industry. So it is niche, right? So it's not going to grow as quickly as say, I don't know, cooking maybe, where everybody needs to eat, right? So, like you said, I think looking back a year in time, being like, wow, look at how much we've actually done in a year, is definitely super powerful.
Yeah, your page is like blown up, dude. It's incredible. Every time I look, I'm like, holy shit, Instagram loves videos.
Yeah, man, it does.
Yeah, I think they really started going all in on Reels when TikTok blew up, and they realized they were behind the curve, and so they decided to like kind of incentivize creators that were doing that. Although I got to say, like, I don't know, like my page is kind of in a rut now. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. That's not like, because it's crazy. I'll look at Chris and he's like, to the moon, Thirsty Whale, to the moon, you third to the moon, and I've been working on getting an extra 1,000 people for like. I mean, this is some high class ass problems that I have here, but for like a month and a half, what the hell is going on? My cocktails are good. Damn
You
it!
just gotta keep pushing, dude. I don't think it's like as long as you're just putting out solid content, I think good things are gonna come back in return.
That's true.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've been doing this 6 years. I've been doing it long enough to probably know that. You might not want this to be. You might not. This might be like a little incendiary. You might not want this to be public. It's just something that I definitely very curious about. And if you want it taken out of this, then it's fine. But okay, so like it comes with a little backstory. I'm sorry, I'm really long-winded, but which is like a good thing for a podcast. But here's the deal. Okay, so like when I was younger, I was really into the band Fish.
Is he drinking
right?
out of a shaker? I'm so sorry. I'm just very thrown off.
28 ounce tin. I was like, at what I was thinking was I was like, is Nick dipping and like spitting into it? Or is he drinking? I couldn't tell.
I'm just drinking water, man.
Right. Are you drinking some water?
Look,
I'm drinking some water too. Best water out there.
Dude, you're playing both sides of the fence.
No, I'm just trying to get some sponsorship for this show. I don't know. I think I knocked this askew. Okay, so here's the deal. So when I was a kid, I used to go to Fish concerts, and there's like a parking lot where all the hippies come out. And like everybody has bootleg Fish shirts, and so what a lot of people were doing was they were taking like Fish songs, right? Like Glide, right? It's a Fish song, and then they would make and they would put it on a Glad logo, right? So I've seen that a lot of people do this. Mover and Shaker definitely does it as well with like Mai Tai with the Wu thing. But there's a lot of those like pop culture logos which are like proprietary, copywritten logos and design, and I'm just wondering if you guys have ever had any trouble with people coming to you and being like, you need to license that from us, or like cease and desist or anything like that.
Definitely. I don't know how to answer this, but I will. Yeah, we've gotten a few over the years. I think it's like, if you look up the parody laws, it's so gray, such a gray area. Right. It really is like, oh, you can make fun of it to a certain extent, but what is the extent? So I think essentially any brand can like send you a cease and desist and like tell you to stop, and you can choose to stop or not, and then they can sue you basically. So, I mean, you're probably going to want to stop unless you want to go against the big names and big pockets. But it kind of goes back like I was saying, like I came up in like skateboard culture, and a lot of that was like bootlegs, like similar to what you're saying. So that was kind of like early on was like I wasn't that creative. It was just kind of like, hey, let's just like take this logo and flip it into like a cocktail, like your shirt. That's just a Led Zeppelin album art.
I love it. It's one of my favorite shirts.
And then I got like I changed the little like glyphs into like I think it's like a lime or a whatever, citrus and like cherries or something. But yeah, I guess I'll give you some like juicy fun stuff. But I've gotten have like the Daiquiri Queen shirt and just like the Dairy Queen logo.
I love that.
They sent me like a mailed copy of like a screen print of our website with that. Like, you gotta stop selling this. And I thought that was hilarious that like Dairy Queen's like looking at our website and like, how did they find that, And that was like a long time ago. So I actually just like redesigned it around what their trademark was, and still out there, just it's not infringing on their trademark, so to speak.
I find weird though is that, like, in a weird way, I can understand a brand trying to protect its assets, but on the other side, it's like it's a whole other like demographic of people. It's a different kind of like, maybe there's some overlap, but at the end of the day, you putting out something that resembles their brand, it also, in a weird way, comes back to help them, where it's like you're giving more visibility.
Well, yeah, 100%. This is where brands are so short-sighted.
Yep.
And I deal with the short-sightedness of brands all the time, nowadays. But, what's crazy is that it is free advertising for them because people know and will equate it to Dairy Queen, and they'll be like, "Oh, Dairy Queen still exists. That's a thing." Like, a lot of people don't know, and it's kind of an old school brand. Or like Wu-Tang, it's like everyone knows that the Mai Tai shirt is like a Wu-Tang W turned upside down. That just comes back to help Wu-Tang because it makes Wu-Tang cool to people who may not have thought. I don't know who doesn't think Wu-Tang is cool, but everyone thinks Wu-Tang is fucking. They're like the epitome of cool, but you know what I'm saying. Like, and so I think a lot of brands really lose sight of that. Because they can make you stop, so they're just going to just because they can.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, and I respect it if that's what they want. But to like go off what you're saying with the Wu-Tang thing, it actually like worked for us in that case. I made like one of my friends asked me if I could make him like Wu-Tang strainer just like for fun. So we made it, and I posted on Instagram. This is like probably 2019, and somehow Raekwon from Wu-Tang, his camp saw it, and they reached out to me. And it was funny because I remember I like was going into the grocery store to get like stuff for cocktails, and I got this email, and it was like really like cryptic, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is like a lawyer pretending to like play dumb to like get me on the phone and like find my address or whatever, or send me like a cease and desist. But I always like play well with that kind of stuff. So I was like, hey, like, yeah, whatever, we can talk. Ended up being like his person that handles his business. And we actually did like, I don't know if you guys saw, but I did like official Raekwon strainers collaboration with him. Awesome. And then we actually went up to New York, and he filmed like a pilot he was trying to pitch to Netflix. So I got to like go to his concert. I hung out with him for a day when we filmed this pitch. Yeah, it was like crazy.
That's
so
amazing.
It like went full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like insane because it's like that never would have happened if I like just slid in his DMs like, hey, can I do this? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like, I'm just going to do it organically and see what happens. Yeah.
Ask for forgiveness, not for permission, right?
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have to like shoot your shot.
I mean, it's always worked for me.
But I think like, okay, so let's like take this one step further. Like, what about like cocktails that are trademarked, like the Sazerac and the Painkiller? Like, I feel like that's crazy for them to go after people. Is this
let's just define this first of all. Let's define this first of all. You cannot. You can only trademark a name of a cocktail. You can't trademark a recipe.
Yeah.
And if we could trademark a lot of people are like, oh, you should be able to trademark recipes. I think I've already said this before, but like, on this podcast before, but how crazy would it be if you were like a chef and somebody came into your kitchen and was like, you got to pay us for that bolaise? Like, that's freaking ridiculous. So
you're not allowed to make
you can't trademark a recipe. You can't trademark a name. So like the Painkiller and the whatchamacallit, it's the other one from Gosling's
Dark and Stormy.
Dark and Stormy. both of those cocktails are trademarked. Like, you can make a dark and stormy and then, or like a dark and stormy riff or whatever, and not use Goslings, or make a total on dark and stormy and then just call it like blustery and cold or something, or like whatever. Just like change the words, and they can't do anything about it. Same with the Painkiller. What I think is crazy about Pussers, though, and I think Pussers really got in a lot of hot water about this when they messed with PKNY, is that Pussers didn't even create the cocktail. They just like bought the rights to it from the person who created the cocktail, and it was never made with Pussers. It was actually made with Cruzan, like aged Cruzan, like 4-year aged Cruzan or whatever, or 7-year aged Cruzan to begin with. So it was never even made with Pussers to begin with. It's been being made since like the 60s or whatever. And, you know, Pussers came in the 80s and like bought the rights to it, which is even lamer.
Yeah, super.
But then they went after PKNY. Yeah, well, they went after PKNY. They won the court case, but they lost in the court of popular opinion. Yeah. And then all of these bartenders were like, here's a video of me tossing out all my Pussers. I'm not carrying at my bar anymore because you guys are... like, it's ridiculous.
Fuck. Yeah, that's wild.
So I think it goes kind of I think that's like the I don't know. That's a whole crazy thing with the.
It's a whole podcast in itself, right there.
Yeah. I mean, these are the things that drive me crazy.
Well, Nick, so just to
I'm like the grumpy old man of cocktails. I'm beginning to realize.
You got a shtick. That's good.
Nick, so I mean, maybe to just kind of break down the business a little bit more. So, is it just you, or do you have a team now? Because I think at this point, like, it's grown a good amount, and I know, like, how is like the day to day of Mover and Shakers? Is it still just one dude, just you? Because when I saw you at Tails last year, it looked like it was just you.
I have like my partner. She helps me out with a lot of stuff. I have somebody who does like fulfillment for our website, and then I have like kind of like a team that I work with that have like different like abilities, but they're not like technically employees, kind of like contract based. But I mean, day to day for me is like, you know, getting my posts aligned, and then I do a lot of like half of like the business is Shopify, like selling our merch, and then half is doing like work for brands. So I'll design, consult, photography, pretty much everything, like events coordination. So yeah, it's a lot of me, but I do get a good amount of help as well.
I mean, the reason I was asking is because, you know, I think that one of the things that I've at least wanted to portray with this is that a lot of times in my life when I was just like bartending coming up, people would always often look at me and be like, oh, when are you going to get a real job? And that shit used to drive me insane, right? And it used to infuriate me until the point when I opened a bar and restaurant. I was like, God, thank God, please stop asking me, because this is my real job. This is my real job, you know? And so one of the things that I find fascinating is like people who have gone on in this industry to do something a little bit more, but by keeping the essence alive, right? And I think that you guys do it so well, and that's why I would love for you to touch more upon like the other half of like what you do, which is the brand side, and even so, like what's it like running and working with your partner in your business? Because I think that's something that's sometimes pretty unique.
Yeah, I think it kind of I kind of have to start from like the beginning of the journey. So you know, I went to school for finance and risk management. I worked like in the corporate world for a little while. I'm sure this is like a lot of people that kind of fell into bartending. And then I ended up moving around a bit doing like seasonal jobs. And then I moved to like a tourist town, St. Augustine, Florida. And I was super into craft beer. So I wanted to get into that world, but I like didn't know anybody. I moved to this place knowing no one. I was just like, okay, I'll work at a restaurant until I meet people like in that world. And then, you know, figure it out from there. Started just like as a bar back, and that's when I like discovered like craft cocktails, and I was like, holy shit, like this is really, really interesting. I like learning the history of all the spirits, all the backstories behind the cocktails. I think I did like bar smarts before I even like stepped behind a bar, because I was like, I need to know something, because I like know nothing. But I like took it with a mindset that like I wanted to know everything, and you know, I was reading like the Death & Co books, like all those classic books, and just like dove headfirst into this world. And I was very fortunate to work with some amazing people. Like once I got into the craft side, I was helped open a bar with host Sway. He was the Garnish guy. I don't know if you remember him. He's since passed away. So that was who I like grew up with, and me and him started our Instagram pages at the same time, and he like blew up. So we kind of were just like it was like this exciting world back then. It was like, what can you do with bartending? And watching him compete, I was like, holy shit, you can like really do stuff. You can go on these trips. And so I really prioritized like the educational aspect and going to Tales of the Cocktail, going to like Portland Cocktail Week, Bartenders Weekend. I tried to make sure I went to like every one of those things that I could, just so I could like learn and network. And it paid off, because like a lot of my business is through that network that I built over the years. Because when you go to those things, you're going to meet all the people behind the brands, and those people want to work with genuine people who care about the community as well. So
Right.
I always tell people, like, I know you're losing out on money and you're maybe spending money to go to these things, but if you're trying to do this long term, it's really going to pay off. So I put a lot of like emphasis on going to these things. Like, I mean, that's where I met you. I met you at Tails, and I don't know. It just means so much to me. It's really special. So I think going into like the working aspect, I think I saw some of the swag we were getting is just like just a brand's logo. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, like that's the least exciting thing ever. So it's kind of like, how can we take like fast fashion, like stuff they're just throwing on tees, and like make it like more into the culture. So that's kind of like where my mind is at. And then incorporating that into social media. We do work for Tales of the Cocktail. I design all their stuff every year, which is super cool. I've probably worked with like every major brand at this point, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, it really just snowballed from, one thing and moved to the next.
That is incredible. I think it's actually really important to prioritize going to different events. It's funny because when I became a kind of well-known bartender in LA before I got to do the Educated Barfly, I was having kids at that same time. So all of the Tails stuff I couldn't go because I had like first I had like a newborn and then like a 3-year-old and then another newborn and I could never go. And so I just got in this habit of just sort of not going, and I just finally started going. And I judged a competition with some people for Amaro Montenegro pretty recently in Arizona, and then I was talking to the guys from Don Fulano, talking about how Cascanes did me so dirty, and maybe they want to send me to Mexico, And they were like, "Yeah, we'll send you to Mexico for sure."
That's hilarious.
Great. Tell them that you're
I'm just kidding. I didn't actually say that. I didn't actually say that, but I did. I did. Like, there was the whole Gallo family was there, so we did a lot of stuff with Argonaut, like back in the day when Argonaut first. I think I was the first bar in LA to put Argonaut into our program and stuff, and so I've had a lot of love for them. So they were like, "Yeah, come to Mexico with Don Fulano. We'll totally."
That's
hook you
awesome.
up."
The brands have that budget for like spending on trade, so it's like they want to send you, they want to like have you experience these things, because they know if you have a good time, you're going to go back and you're going to organically promote their brand, and as you should.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like we're making cocktails every single day. We're going to be promoting some brand regardless, so, just from making cocktails, and always looking out for good ingredients, and and also especially in the tequila world, you want to be like supporting brands that are ethical, right? So
For
you
sure.
need to find like ethical, good product, and then you will, 100%. But they also realize, I think brands realize more intimately than people realize that people know that the stories are what sell product. Like a good story, like a really good example of that would be like Uncle Nearest is like the star of the last, maybe 5 years. It's because they have this great story behind their brand. It's a brand new brand. They were having Dickel make their whiskey, but they tied it into this like historic story, and it blew up. And at the right moment, I think in time, for that. But I think brands really understand that, and we're all three of us in some way are in the storytelling business, whether we're making people laugh with memes, or whether we're making cocktail content, or whether we're talking about the brands that we like, that Louis does so well. So sponsor this podcast, guys.
That's the whole takeaway here. It's take Leandro
That's the
and
takeaway.
Louis to Mexico with Don Fulano. We can bring Nick along. I think that's the important part.
That's right. Maybe we'll get Urupan. Maybe we should get Urupan to send us over there, and we'll make
Yes.
the Katanga cocktail. We'll have Katanga Week 2025.
Ranch Water Week.
I mean, hey, we can open it up to Topo Chico if they want to, just saying.
I mean,
Let's go.
I'm not too proud.
Nick, the other thing I wanted you to touch upon as well is what's it like running a business with your partner? Because, or at least having her be a part of the business. Because for me, my wife has been very clear that this is not her world. She doesn't really want to be a part of this at all, and I don't blame her. I respect it. So I'd love to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super fortunate. My girlfriend, she's an amazing bartender, and I've always like regarded her, even before we were dating, was like, you're the best bartender like in my eyes. So I value and like respect her highly, and had like a million ideas in the beginning, but as time went on, it's like you kind of touched on everything, so it's really good to have somebody to bounce stuff off of. But we've both found like our own ways to work in this industry, and like I do other stuff too. I'm a brand ambassador, a photographer. I feel like as a bartender, you kind of like, a lot of people are just like the ultimate entrepreneur, and she's like that as well. So she does like social media, she does her own events and stuff like that, and bartends as well. So it's really like, at the end of the day, it's like, how can I support you and how can she support me? And we're trying to like, there's no, like, as you guys know, there's no set schedule. It's just kind of like, I'm going to work at 8 p.m. tonight. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? Can I make you dinner? Like, can I bring you food? So I think it's like really just like existing out of this like normal lifestyle that a lot of people have, and trying to like make sure our mental health is on point and we're just staying sane to put it lightly. But no, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I always have somebody to travel with. We have the same skill set, so like one of us can be behind the bar at an event, and vice versa. We know all the same people just from like years of traveling, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm super fortunate.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I also have a partner who is like, why do you do this for a living?
And Nick, if I'm not mistaken, she is sober, correct?
Yeah, so I am too. I've been sober for over 5 years.
Oh, wow.
She's pretty close to 5 years. Yeah. So that was something, my original business partner, me and him, like we grew up skateboarding since we were like 15, and he quit drinking about 2 years before I did. And I saw like all these insane changes he had made, and he wasn't a bartender. He was, outside of it, but I was behind the bar. I was drinking like a bartender drinks. I was drinking Fernet throughout the night. If you know Josue loved Fernet. I think we probably split a bottle like every shift. And I had to take a step back just when I started Mover and Shaker, and when I worked for Angels Envy. So when I started working for Angels Envy, I just didn't have enough time in a day to be hungover anymore. So it was just a conscious decision of watching what my friend had done and change his life. And alcohol for me just wasn't working with my body and my mental health. So I just decided I had to cut it out. And it was funny because I have like a calendar on an app, and the calendar says no drinks 2019. So at one point that was my goal. And then I think like 30 days in, I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'm just going to never drink again, which is not hard in the sense of drinking, but I do miss like the taste of cocktails, the taste of spirits. Definitely really miss that. If they ever make like a pill where I can drink and not get drunk, I will definitely be drinking some mezcal and bourbon. But yeah, it's been really cool, because in the beginning it was really hard because I don't think I knew a single person that was a sober bartender. And now I feel like it's like pretty widespread. It's really not that difficult. And there's so many good like NA beers and NA spirits that I don't really feel like I'm missing out too much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely have a cocktail. Not to mention that there's a growing number of, sober bartenders, because, what a lot of people don't realize is that like bartending, even making cocktails, even like if you just make cocktails in a service well, so you're not, like take the hospitality part out of it, has very little to do with drinking alcohol. It really does. It has very little to do with drinking alcohol. So, although it's kind of hard because there is a drinking culture around, I always applaud people that can do that. For sure.
And I mean, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to touch upon it, because I think that, in this industry, oh God, I know we just got really heavy real quick, and we were having a nice, bubbly, fun time earlier. I just realized that. But I think it's important because one of the things I always ask folks, usually not on camera, is like what the relationship with alcohol is when you're in this industry, because I've seen both sides of it. I've, people in my family have had alcohol issues. I've seen people in this industry who like mid shift have gone off the deep end, gone off the rails because of that. And it's something that I had an experience many years ago, and it shook me to my core. And I was like, whoa, I really need to, get my drinking under control behind a bar, because it's
Right.
it's easy when you have access to everything. You're there, like you're the one, touching all these spirits. And so, I think it's a really important conversation for bartenders to listen to and to hear different perspectives on, because, it's a lucrative career when you're in it. And if you start to think like, oh, I can't be a part of this if I don't drink, I think that is that's not a good way to be, because like for a lot of people, this is their 100% their livelihood. And so hearing from you, someone who has a very successful career so far, I'll say so, and being a sober bartender, I think that's really important for people to listen to, because, like you said, there are other folks who are now, doing it as well and really showcasing that. But I think it's really important that people need to realize that, like, some people alcohol is harder to deal with than for others. And for some people, it's like, you know what? I want to go cold turkey, but I don't want to leave this world, right? And so I think, kudos to you, and I'm really like, that's incredible, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it just loops back around to like, always think about the passion I had when I first got into it. I didn't get into it because like, hey, I want to get drunk during my shift. It was like, whoa, like this bottle of chartreuse, like they made this shit 500 years ago and it was monks. Like that blew my mind, and like it still blows my mind. And that's kind of why I make like funny memes about it, because I don't know, there's so much culture and so much history with it that I think it's still interesting. And I still think like all the nuances of cocktail culture are worth talking about, even if I don't drink. And yeah, I mean, it's shifted a little bit, like my mindset, but it's just a special place. And I feel like bartenders too, like we're so different than anybody else that like once you're a bartender, you just like click with other bartenders. So I don't know. I just love being in this world and like meeting other bartenders and talking to them. It's kind of as simple as that at the end of the day. I mean, the drinking thing, I don't even think about it anymore. It's crazy. I'm like, my house is like, I have so many bottles and stuff about alcohol, but it's like more than that to me,
Damn, that was great. That was, yeah. I got nothing else to add to that. That was pretty great. Fuck. Well, I guess my next question to you is, like, what do you think the future of this industry is? I think that we've gone through so much weird shit over the last 4 years at this point, where it's been like, COVID and then everything, and then a lot of folks on social media, and like the three of us having a presence on the internet. And like, I'm fascinated about what the future of this industry will look like. Like, will there continue to be more opportunities for folks to do things outside? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I kind of think I think before COVID, you had a very small group of like quote unquote influencers. And I think there was a lot of really cool stuff happening, but there was almost like backlash within the bartending community against these influencers, which I think it was just because it was so new then that like people didn't know how to perceive it. But I think COVID like totally knocked things like on its ass. But I think just with like a whole new wave of like influencers and just like the content that's like that people are taking in now, I think that it's going to be a lot more digestible for the bartenders. So I think like the trips, I think people like you guys and maybe me, like I think we're going to be the people kind of like driving culture. And I think it's going to be like easier for the like normal bartenders to kind of like infiltrate and get in on that level.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll just become a culture of its own. I think it's going to take some time, but I really think that's what's going to happen. I think the trips, like if they can find a way to make that like, I don't know, just seem more organic instead of just like, hey, we took this like one guy on this like badass trip and you're just like, fuck that guy, But if it's like, hey, we took like 50 bartenders and like this is the cool shit they came up with like during it.
Yep.
Like that's the shit like bartenders want to see.
Yep.
And people were doing that.
Although,
and they're going to start doing it again, but I don't know.
I got to say though, like, I saw a lot of that backlash at the beginning of COVID. And what's funny is that, I was bartending until COVID, and COVID ended my job. And so, you know, I had a lot of my personal Instagram was just like bartenders that I know, and I saw a lot of that backlash. But my whole thing was this, like, you know, because on the one hand, I can understand why there would be a backlash, because they're like, oh, we do this for a living and we kind of earned the right. But at the same time, I also know bartenders that ended up working in really badass bars that learned cocktails out of books at their house and then became actual bartenders. And then my whole thing is always just like, there's nothing stopping you from making your own content. Like, you've got a phone, you could get a $200 mic or a $160 mic. You're making $300 a night in a bar. You can get a $160 mic. You can set it up in your house, and then you can also do that if you want to. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be successful at it, but at least you can put your, you know, you're not, you know, you gotta, if you're not in the race, you're not going to win it. So you might as well just get in there with all the other people that were doing it, you know, and see if you can't then also, you know, make your voice heard, right? It's like, what's so great about the internet, I think, you know, or one of the few things that makes the internet kind of great is that it's like naturally democratic, right? Yeah. Like, everyone has the chance to be heard. Everyone has a chance to have a voice. Not everyone's going to be Mr. Beast, but at least you have the chance to try to be what you want to be, right?
Yeah, and like, honestly, when I started Mover and Shaker, the whole idea was like, how can I get my name out there without like having to meet people? You know, it was a little self-serving, but I think that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to create like a personal brand. And for me, it was like, well, if I can make a product that people want, you know, at the end of the day, it'll come back to it being tied to me. And like we all know, like that just took a life of its own. So, you know, Mover and Shaker has its own name, but I mean, like you're saying that it's all democratic. We all have the same tools. Like, nobody's making one video and becoming like this instant star. Like, it's a job in itself. Like, you guys put in a shit ton of work. I put in a shit ton of hours too. So it's like, no one's just getting lucky and like getting some undeserved thing in this world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people don't realize how much work it is. It's funny because when we first started, when we decided to not go back to bartending, Marius sent me this meme that was like, I used to work 9 to 5 when I worked for somebody else. Now I work for myself, and I work every minute of every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you're always at work. Even when you're sleeping, you're like working. Like, you're always working. It's 100%. A lot more work. It's actually a lot more intense. And there's a lot more consequence to it too, because if you don't perform, you could lose your income like pretty easily. So you got to like constantly be like trying to figure out what to do next, you know?
Yeah. And I think that even like, it's kind of, I feel like even now there is some backlash to people who have a social platform when it comes to the alcohol bartending, you know, industry content, which is really crazy to me, because like you said, Nick, you touched upon it. You're like, you know, this is what's driving culture. So why aren't people just like people just seem bitter? And that's, I think, the at the end of the day, what it comes down to. It's like people who are bitter, and unfortunately, like, some of them have a voice and people listen to them, and it just ends up creating like, it's like you said, if you really want to do something about it, pick up your phone, make your own content. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, there's so many haters. The one thing that every single thing on the internet now, you have to just like totally not even care. You have to have a thick skin to be on the internet these days.
Yeah,
that's true. I will say this though. Anytime a cocktail is made that someone else created, you have the obligation to shout that person out, either in the description below your video or verbally in the video. Because at the end of the day, I see a lot of this going on where there's people making cocktails that are obviously not theirs, that are not giving credit to the creator. And what kind of sucks about the internet a little bit is that, like, you know, like when I started The Educated Barfly, a lot of the reason why I started was to promote other people that inspired me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about Leandro being a genius behind the bar. I am, you know, serviceable at best, but my hospitality is on point. That's what I tell my bar backs. It's a 90% hospitality and it's 10% skill and talent, because I have 10% skill and talent. But the thing is what sucks about the internet is that whoever's putting the video out is going to get most of the credit anyway. I see myself tagged, and I could be like, oh, today I'm making a X cocktail done by this bartender in this city in this year, blah blah blah. Make the cocktail, and then people will tag me back later, being like, as seen on the Educated Barfly or per the Educated Barfly, without shouting out the bartender who created it. So you're going to get most of the credit anyway, because you are the one that, So I would say that for everyone that's making cocktail content, if you're not doing just wholly original things, you should really be talking about who it was that created that cocktail. And I think a lot of that bitterness might dry up right there.
I don't even think there's an original cocktail to be made anymore. I mean,
just whatever your spin is, I guess. Yeah, I mean, everything's based on everything else, but
yeah, I mean, you can't get by on the internet like, if I don't know, riding on somebody's coattails if you're not crediting them, especially like, I feel like, we all came up in the same era. Like, think about what Instagram was in 2017. It was like just a photo of a cocktail, and like that was the hot thing, and like everybody like stormed to like getting amazing at photos. You were pretty early on the video train though.
I was the third bartender. No, I
started it.
No, I was. We started posting in November of 2017. Although we started it a little bit before that, and then made some videos and scrapped them, and they were really terrible. And also all the early videos are pretty terrible anyway. They were pretty bad. But the thing about like when we got started was that there were no like professional bartenders that had their own channel when we started. Yeah. There was like How to Drink before us, and How to Drink when I got started was like really big, but he's an enthusiast, right? He was an editor by trade, in the filmmaking industry, and is a cocktail enthusiast. And then you had Steve the bartender, who was pretty professional, but had never actually worked in a. Okay, we're gonna interview him. I may be wrong about this. I'm just gonna say that right there. But I believe that he had never worked in a bar. He just created a mobile bartending service because he lives in Australia. And it's the Wild West there, and you can do that apparently, which is like I'm so jealous of. But he did like a mobile bartending business, and got his like chops from that. And then there was like there was like Jamie Boudreau, and there was like Jim Meehan, but these guys were people that were like making cocktail videos for like Small Screen Network or Liquor.com. They didn't have their own. I don't want to say that I was the first, but I was one of a very few that were like an actual professional bartender working every night in a bar that then made a channel that was like dedicated channel. Yeah. And we were pretty early. Like we were pretty early on, 2017 with the video thing. But we were like prioritizing YouTube at that time. And we didn't do Instagram Reels or anything like that until like somewhat recently. Yeah,
I feel like, we all just like grew together though, because we were just kind of like, whatever Instagram is like pushing and promoting, it kind of just like went that way. But it's just funny to see like everybody got amazing at photography, and then it was like, okay, now I got to be a videographer as well. And then like, right. And then people are like, okay, now it's about like my personality. Like that's what it is now. It's like, you don't even have to be good at video. You just have to like be entertaining or be yourself or authentic, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think authenticity has always been kind of the thing, but I kind of feel like if you can put forth like kind of like a heightened version of your personality, the internet kind of feeds off that for sure.
Well, Leandro, do you have any other questions for our good friend Nick here?
I don't know. Let me go through the list of questions we didn't send Nick.
Oh.
Because we're super professional, and let's see if we covered everything on your list.
We did cover everything.
What inspiring inspirations? Yeah, I don't know. I think we had a really good. I don't know. I felt like it did take kind of a dark turn at the end, but I think we did like a pretty good conversation here. I'm super excited. I'm happy to meet you though, because I've been a really big fan of all of your T-shirts for a really long time, and all of the like equipment that you do, and also like when I got interested like in what you guys were doing. Did you guys start with pins? Because dude, my pin game is strong. There was a minute where I was just like obsessively collecting pins. Like when I was running the bar at Kohl's, like reps would come in and I'd be like, "You got pins? Like how many pins you got? Hook me up with some pins." And so I have like a drawer just filled with pins.
I'm pretty sure.
I was like, "Oh, this guy's making great pins."
I think this one is one that you gave me in New Orleans last year. because I was
Yeah.
like, wait, I can't believe I'm not wearing anything from Mover and Shaker. And I looked down, I'm like, wait a second, yes I am.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like the whole reason it got started with pins was one of my buddies, like we kind of were doing the same thing, competing, and he started like a t-shirt company, and I was like, well, I don't want to do t-shirts, so I was like, my other friend was doing wrestling pins. He was like a huge wrestling fan, so he was doing wrestling pins. I was like, oh, I could do like some bartending stuff. So
Right.
just came out of this like weird thing, but I had also just like bought my first search and rescue denim apron, and I was like, yo, I need like some pins. And like, I don't know if y'all remember, but pins were like huge in like 2015, 2016. Like, so I was buying like all sorts of like hip hop pins and stuff, but there were no bartending pins. I think Love and Victory had the Negroni pin, and that was like the only thing you could go and buy. So I was like, well, I want to make something like bartenders love. And so like the first pin was the Angostura pin. And to tie into your previous question, actually like pretty early on, I saw an order come through on our site, and in the email was like at angosturahouse.com.
Oh, nice.
It was like, yeah, it was like 4 pins. I was like, oh shit, this is like, and we just started out, I'm like, shit, this is where we like get in trouble and like get sued or something. And like whatever, we sent them off anyways. And I got an email like a couple days later, and she was like, hey, we're just like checking the quality. We really love them. We want to buy like a bunch of them. And that was like kind of what got us like, I was like, oh shit, like this could be something, you know? So I really owe it to the Ango people, which is super awesome. But yeah, that was the infancy and kind of how it was born. But yeah, now I feel like if you get a pin from like a brand, it's probably something I've worked on or created. Just pretty cool.
I mean, I have like so many branded pins from.
Like that's a pretty
I
great
have so
feeling.
many.
Yeah, it's cool.
I
Man.
mean,
It's
I
cool.
almost want to just go and get them out and just dump them on this table right here because it's a lot. There's a bunch from you too.
I do have one last question. We've talked so much about, Nick, your past, like the history of Mover and Shaker, your history with bartending. We got deep and dark, had a little bit of that. What's the future for you? Like, what are you most excited about going forward? Is there something that you've been like you really eyeing? Like, what's the future for Nick? What's the future for Mover and Shaker? Like, what can we keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I think this, like what you guys are doing is super awesome, and it's something I've really wanted to do for a while. I think it'll be a little different, and I'm trying to figure that out. But I think I really want to like highlight on Instagram what these events are like. So I think like Bartenders Weekend, Tales, I want to create reels like based off that with real bartenders and with influencers. So that's something I'm going to be like trying to get into in the next couple months, is just like putting my face to the brand a little bit more and really like showcasing what we do behind the scenes, because I feel like, the memes are funny, but the memes are like facing like the trade, facing, bartenders. But I think if we can kind of bring in like other service industry or just younger people into like what a bartender's life is like, I think that's the ultimate goal. So I think
we actually just did a whole bunch of content at the Amaro Montenegro thing, what it's like to judge a competition.
Dude, I saw it on their story. I mean, that looks sick. I mean, imagine like if we're all judging that kind of stuff, I think is kind of the ultimate goal, is like being people on those trips, like helping the younger generation. Cause I feel like I've kind of graduated a little bit, and hopefully, influencing the younger generation and keeping cocktails going. Like that's the name of the game, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that is the name of the game for sure. There is one last question that Louis asks everybody, and today you're going to be the litmus test for if we ever ask this question again. Okay, so it's all riding on you, Nick.
All right, I guess we'll do it.
Do you want to ask it? Do you want to ask it, Louis? Because we know what our history was with this question.
Should we ask it with
this question dies today. If it's what? No caveat. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. No caveat.
Okay.
Just ask the question. And this question dies today if we get it. Let's just see. You know what I'm talking about, Louis. All right, let's just see.
All right, Nick. So, okay, if you could make and have a drink, well, I guess for you it could be just make a drink, or maybe you could have it as well. I don't know. It's up to you. How do you want to answer?
Hypothetically,
make and have a drink with anyone, dead or alive.
Oh,
who would it be, and what would you make?
Oh my gosh, this is one I need like in advance, guys. Come on.
I know.
I know, but I'm glad we didn't give it to you in advance, because we know what answer we would have gotten if you got it in advance, and we'll tell you about it later after you answer.
Wow, Man, I'm just gonna say like some random thing. I think because I'd have to think about
All
this
right, say
one.
the
Take
random
your
thing.
time. There's no rush to answer.
Yeah, we're editing this. No one's going to see the delay between the question and the
Yeah,
and
here we
the
go.
answer.
Let me
So-
like think for 30 seconds before I say like Tony Hawk or something stupid.
Oh, Tony Hawk would be a good one. I don't know
not
if that
stupid.
fool drinks. He's really vanilla in real life, but
He's really
but
vanilla.
he is super vanilla.
What do you think he drinks? Like
But,
light beer?
I think he drinks fucking Zima, dude, or like he drinks
Zima?
Boone's
Damn.
Farm, or Boone's.
was gonna
yeah,
say something
like
like
Kiwi
Natty.
Boone's.
Natty? Wow. I mean that would be on brand for my college years. So they make it NA yet?
And then he's on a podcast with Jason Ellis, who definitely drinks Mad Dog 2020 grape.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. This is
Heard
a tough
of Mad
one.
Dog 2020 in years.
What's like the most interesting one somebody else has said, so I can get some inspiration?
No, we're not saying. We're
What
not
did
going to
Chris
say. It would
Can't.
defeat the purpose.
Nick, I
We're not
can't.
going to say.
Because,
Oh,
and you'll
no.
understand why.
You can't. You'll understand why when we tell you, but you just gotta. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. Just say anybody.
Oh, somebody
Someone
want to
you
have a
look
drink
up
with
And it
me?
could be any drink. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic drink. It could be like I would drink chocolate milk with Rodney Dangerfield, and if you
that'd be
wanted
tight.
it to be that. That would
I
be
mean,
tight.
I'd probably have coffee, but I don't know with who. There's so many options. Does somebody want to have a drink with me? Is that what's happening?
I'd have a drink
coffee
with you.
you.
I'd drink it with some. I would definitely fuck up some coffee with you.
No,
for
I mean,
sure.
like, did the other podcasters say that about me?
no.
Okay, I'm blanking out, guys.
All right. Okay. Oh, we'll tell you. We'll tell you now. You're not going to obviously.
We don't wanna
We'll
keep
just say
torturing
Tony
you.
Hawk. We'll say Boone's
Hawk.
Farm with Tony Hawk. Okay. How
I'll
about
have
that?
a
Boone's
go.
Farm with Tony Hawk.
Bush non-alcoholic beer with Tony Hawk since he drinks Natty.
Okay. Bush non-alcoholic beer with Tony Hawk. And the reason why we asked you is because we've asked that question, which is a pretty standard question. You know, this is like, it's a thing that people ask. So we've asked that question of every single person that we've had in this podcast, and every single one of them to a T said a Negroni.
I knew it was gonna
with what?
I knew it was gonna be like a Negroni variation. I feel like that's like
Yeah, no, yeah, with Anthony Bourdain. Every single one of them.
Oh my god.
So I was like, I don't know if we can
Yeah, that'd
ask
be
this
pretty
question anymore.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I thought.
You know,
And then today, Louis was like, well, this is my last question. And I was like, is he killing the question now? Because we had Anthony Bourdain every time?
Because I'm
I thought it
reading,
was.
I'm reading medium raw like very loosely, as in like every third, fourth day. And I like remember like picking up last night on like, okay, I'll get some like inspiration for tomorrow, and I just totally failed the test.